So the current wait times for people who are, let's say, from India, China, the wait times for the green cards, EB-2, EB-3, which we traditionally go for after the H-1B, they are more than 12 years.
So long.
It's insane,
Yeah.
right? But there is a better route, and the better route is the EB-1 green card, which has a backlog of just 2 years right now. So other people who are waiting 12, 15 years, I've met people who wait 12, 15 years and they're still in the US. I-140 is approved, they're just sitting there waiting to get to their date essentially. You know, their dependents have to leave the country many times or change status. There's a lot of issues that's going on. But the EB-1A green card or the EB-1BC, whatever you go for, those green cards are the fix over here.
Alright, so you mentioned the EB-1 is much less in time. So for what kind of people is the EB-1 essentially?
Excellent question. There are certainly some eligibility criteria and I'll go over them. But traditionally the EB-1 visa is for essentially people who are, number one, extraordinary.
Okay.
So we're talking about extraordinary individuals. We're talking about outstanding professors, researchers. We're talking about MNC executives, managers of some MNCs which have a company in the US and also in some other country.
Okay.
All right. So it's a very specific list of people, but the good thing is that it's not very difficult to be one of these people. When they show it on their website, they say that if you are extraordinary, you might have some Oscars, you might have this, that, Pulitzer, but hardly 10% of these people who are applying have Oscars or things like that. Yet, they're able to actually go through the pathway. Look at any PhD candidate. This is the pathway they go for because they know that the US wants them there and this is the pathway to go forward with.
Alright, okay, sounds good. Alright, so how about the differences? Because there's EB-1A, EB-1B, EB-1C.
Yeah, so there's certainly three types and EB-1A is the traditional type. I'm going to go over all the eligibility criteria here and we're going to talk about the exact steps that you can actually take to get this visa. We've actually filed 12-15 petitions per month and we're getting massive success rates. We're going to be talking about all of that, so stay tuned. It's an important video. I'll give you the exact pathway. But before that, the differences, The differences are as such. EB-1A is something which is the standard pathway. If you have gotten the O1, and we made a video about O1 as well, you have to prove the exact same specifications over here, just as the O1. Alright, and we're going to talk about that, but you need to satisfy 3 out of 10 conditions, just like the O1. Alright. Whereas if you are going for the EB-1B, that is for researchers, professors or research personnel, and it's not difficult to be one. In fact, we take the research pathway in most of the cases, and in that case, you only need to satisfy 2 requirements. Alright.
Okay.
However, if you're going for EB-1C, the requirements are completely different. It's from multinational managers. That's the visa we're going to be talking about the least in this video because that's completely out of context in most cases. There should be a separate video on that. That's all I'm saying.
Alright, sounds good.
So the difference over here between EB-1A and EB-1B is that, EB-1B has basically those exact eligibility requirements which are for EB-1A, but only the research specific ones.
Okay.
So we're basically removing all the other ones. The major difference, again, one more major difference is that EB-1A can be self-petitioned. So I can go ahead and tomorrow I can file my EB-1A petition. I can say, hey, this is my 140, I want to get this green card, and I believe I satisfy these requirements. Whereas for EB-1B, you have to prove less number of requirements, but you need an employer.
Alright.
So there is certainly, that thing going on over there. None of these require perm certification, labor certification is not required, but employer is required in EB-1B and C, not in A.
Okay, alright.
Yeah. Let's go over the EB-1A first. I think that's the most important one here.
Yeah.
So if you take a look at the extraordinary ability, you would see that these are the requirements on your screen right now. This is exactly essentially what you're looking at when you go for the O1 non-immigrant visa as well. So if you've already gotten the O1, you've proved to USCIS what you need to prove already. For EB-1A, we just have to do it with a little bit more scrutiny. The major ones, and I understand some of you guys might say, hey, what if we aren't even qualifying for a single one, right?
Yeah.
That's normal, it seems like a lot. But the major ones that we focus on, even if you're not currently satisfying for a single one, you connect with me, I'll tell you what we'll do for you. The major ones we're focusing on is point number 6 over here. That's evidence of your authorship of scholarly articles. Now they basically need some research papers. Then there's the point number 5, which is saying evidence of original scientific, scholarly, artistic, athletic, or business-related contributions. This is nothing but citations. So if your papers have citations, you can essentially go for this one.
Right.
Finally, we go for the point number 3, which is evidence of published material about you in major trade publications. So if other people are using your research and building on top of that, they're clearly going to be writing about you. And research papers qualify as major trade publications. And hence, in that way, EB-1A eligibility is being fulfilled over here. Remember that we need to prove 3 out of these 10. So even when we're going for these 3 out of 10, right, we don't just send the file in with 3. We always try to prove a little bit more. Maybe you're satisfying the second last one over here, which is high salary.
Yeah, alright.
Maybe you have an important position, right? So you're satisfying the third last one. Maybe you're a part of a membership, which is the second one, which is not easy to get. There's a lot of things, right? A lot of things that we satisfy over here, but minimum is 3, so we go for those 2 research papers. And then there's a file being built after that. We build a 50 to 80 page file about how you prove these things, about how you actually satisfy these criteria. Then we petition for it.
Alright, sounds good. So what if I'm not even qualifying for one? What if I don't have any research papers?
So if you don't have even a single paper, don't get worried. In the later part of this video, I'll tell you exactly what to do. There's 2 ways to move forward over there, and I'll talk to you about that.
Okay.
But first, let's talk about EB-1B. I just want to get the eligibility out of the picture. EB-1B is essentially the exact same as you can see the requirements. It only requires 2 of these 6 criteria.
Okay, alright.
However, what is important over here, you would see, is that these are the exact same requirements that we were proving in EB-1A, the research ones only, however. So authorship of articles, there's that. There's contributions to the field, original scientific contributions, that's the second last over here. And then evidence of published material in a professional publication written by others about you, essentially. So these are the exact same requirements we're talking about in EB-1A. Over here, it's easier because you just need 2 out of 6, but you need employer sponsorship with that.
Fair enough.
Alright?
Alright.
And then finally moving on to EB-1C, which is basically a completely different visa type. You can see that you should have a company, a foreign company also running, a US company also running, and then you should be integral to that company as a manager, and you should be then being sent to the US company. So that's the EB-1C, which is a bit dodgy. It's a bit different from what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I can see that.
Alright.
So it all looks very good, but how about the approval rates?
Excellent question. So we have this chart over here. You can see that we are petitioning for 12 to 15 people per month. And if you check out the chart, you would see that currently 70% of the people who actually are applying directly for EB-1A with us are getting approved with this pathway that I'm telling you about. And if you go through the O1, if you already have the O1, and in many cases people go from H1B instead of O1, that is also normal. But if you have the O1, the chances are significantly higher, 82%.
Yeah, you're right about that actually. And that's quite useful because the requirements are quite similar, right?
Requirements are the exact same, and hence it makes sense as to why it's easier to prove to USCIS for a second time for an immigrant petition that you are qualifying as an extraordinary personnel.
Alright, sounds promising. So how about the advantages of EB-1?
So any kind of EB-1 you have, first off, the major advantage is that it is an immigrant visa. Right, that's beautiful in itself because immigrant visa means that it's basically a green card, right? You can sponsor a spouse, your children, if you want to bring them to the US with you, right? Everyone gets a green card at the same time. It's not just you. If you already are married and you have children, everyone will get a green card.
Oh, that's great.
That's great, right? Then there's of course, things like live unlimited, work unlimited. You can live as long as you want, work wherever you want. You have the authorization. Your dependents can do the same. That's beautiful in itself, right? So you can start your business, you can do whatever you want essentially. These are just some of the advantages, but all of these are possible if you have the EB-1, any kind of green card essentially.
Alright, very promising actually. So certain people I've heard already have the I-140 for the EB-2 and the EB-3. So how about them? How does the process go?
I understand. See, if you already have your I-140 in your hands, let's say you're on an H1B, the traditional route is you go from H1B to EB-2 or 3, whichever looks good, right?
Yeah.
However, if you already have your I-140 approved, you probably are holding on to a priority date or something that you don't want to let go of, right? You don't want to waste that time, right, that you spent over there. You might be in the US waiting for that priority date for 5 years already, maybe, maybe 7 years or 8 years or whatever. However, what's important to know over here is that you can port your date from any of these visa types to the other visa. So you can go from EB-2 to EB-1, you can go from EB-3 to EB-1, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
And at the same point in time, if at all, your EB-2 is getting approved sooner, you can again port from EB-1 to EB-2 just in case you believe that EB-1 is not working out for you. So you can port the dates from one to the other any number of times. In fact, the government automatically does that for you. So that's beautiful in that you don't really need to put in any additional effort. These two can be separate petitions which don't really interact with each other, but at the same point in time, you do get the advantage of porting the dates of the I-140.
Alright, that's really great. So how long can I stay on an EB-1 in the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. The same thing that, as I mentioned previously, unlimited. Once you have it, stay unlimited.
That's great. All right. Next question. Can I bring my family with me?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, your spouse and your children. Those are your close family, blood relatives, essentially. Only those you can bring.
Only
with you.
those. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good distinction. And can my dependents, so my spouse or my children, can they work also in the United States?
Yes, because they will also be getting a green card, hence they're able to work, study, whatever they want. They can start doing business, whatever they want. That's possible.
Okay, great. Lots of freedom. Can I apply for the EB-1 if I'm already in the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, most of the people do that. They're already there on non-immigrant visa, then they go for EB-1. That's very common. You don't need to worry about that part.
Okay, great. And what if my employer does not want to petition for me?
In that case, you want to skip on the EB-1B or C, but you go for EB-1A, where a self-petition is allowed essentially. You can do it by yourself. You don't really need to worry about any of it. In fact, you don't even need any company to sponsor. You don't even need a company of your own. You can just go ahead and sponsor yourself.
Oh, that's great. All right. And how many research papers would I need for the EB-1?
So in most cases, what we see for EB-1, somewhere around, if they're shared papers, somewhere around 15, 20 is good enough. But if there's individual papers, just about 5 to 7 is good enough in most cases. It also depends on how many citations you have, because you can potentially get an RFE saying, hey, we need more, evidence for this criteria because your contribution is not good enough. Then you have to essentially add those citations. But in most cases, essentially, if you have somewhere around 10, 15 citations per paper and you have about 5 to 7 papers, you're good to go for the EB-1. It makes for a strong file as long as those papers are independently yours and not shared amongst other people. Because then we can show that you are the expert behind the field, behind the work.
Fair enough. Okay, so how can we essentially get the research papers?
Right, so I actually mentioned this, we're going to be talking about it. Let's do that right now. Yeah, so if you are someone who's not from the field of research and you're doing this for the first time, right, it makes sense to, it's really something difficult. For the first time, it's really difficult to go through the process. No one's there to guide you, right? There's 2 resources over here. One is free, but let's talk about that a little bit later. First one is going to be the research groups page on YMGrad, and this is exactly what you need because this is built for this purpose, right? You can essentially get assistance till you get published. And these papers guaranteed get published in IEEE Springer if you basically work with our PhD partners on it. You get essentially a lot of guidance on it. And on top of that, you get access to this beautiful research paper panel, right? You can see it on your screens right now, which shows you exactly which step of the process you are in right now with the PhD partner. It is much more helpful because it's a proven pathway. You can basically go for multiple papers if you want at the same time, and you will have multiple PhD partners helping you. Right? You will have essentially help with citations also. After your paper is published, you'll know exactly how to market your paper, get your citations as well. So all of that essentially is covered as a part of the process. Now, I understand not everyone wants to invest in that. So if you're not willing to do that, you want to go the slow way, but the free way, then the way would be discussions page. You can go ahead and take a look at our discussions forum, and of course, on that discussions forum, you can check essentially many people are over there who are looking to indulge in research. You can join forces with them, do 15, 20 papers in that case instead of the 5 to 7 individual ones that you would get with us. And then after that, like I said, it's completely free, but you can post about your research interest over there as well, and then you can basically go ahead and publish them. It's a bit slower, and you'll be doing it with other people that also don't know the process, but when you're combining forces, it gets a bit easier.
Fair enough. All right, that looks good. Then my next question, say we have all the papers, all the citations, we fulfill all the requirements. How do we apply for the EB-1?
So the first step would be to file an I-140 petition for an alien worker. All right. This is the standard petition that you go for with EB-2, EB-3 as well. So it's the common pathway essentially. You have to still do that. All right. Now your petition will, however, be filed under EB-1 instead of EB-2 or EB-3. Once this petition gets approved, and remember that you don't have to wait for it, you can even do it in parallel. So these 2 images will show you on the screen right now how you can actually do it in parallel or one by one. But once this gets approved, or together with the I-140, you have to file the I-485. That is for adjustment of status. So of course this depends on whether your I-140 gets approved or not, but if it does, then you can adjust your status to essentially a permanent resident, a green card, and that's through the I-485.
All right, sounds good. I actually have a genuine question. So say I got the I-140 from the EB-2 and the EB-3. Can I use it for the EB-1?
Yeah, like I said, you can actually port the dates in that case. You will still need to petition for EB-1,
Yeah.
but you can use the priority date from those petitions, all right? But you'll still need to file a new I-140 though.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. All right, and the filing fees, because I suppose the US will ask for some fees.
Yeah, so USCIS, essentially the agency which is reviewing the petitions, they charge the processing fee of $715 for standard processing. Now this process can take sometimes 4 months to 6 months to even sometimes 8-9 months as well. However, if you go for premium processing, you have to pay an additional $2,805, and that basically means that you'll get the output within 15 days.
Oh, okay.
Right, so that's a bit faster. So I think at this point, you must be sold that EB-1 is one great alternative, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. So what are you guys waiting for? If you are genuinely interested, all you have to do is to reach out to me on WhatsApp. I'll discuss with you the exact details of the pathway because I know that this is a lot to take in, right? Reach out to me. I'll talk to you about how essentially we will go for your particular case moving forward, each and every step. Like I said, we're doing 12 to 15 petitions per month. We have our own attorney in the US. Everything's absolutely transparent. And we can actually help you with this entire process. So this is a pathway that not really many people are actually doing because it's very difficult. No one really has these resources and PhD partners like we do. And hence, we'll be able to get this done for you as well. Of course, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, share this with the people who need to know, follow me on Instagram if you need, and sign up on YMGrad.com where you will find much more about this. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye and take care for now.